There is a lot of focus on the financials and on making money because, businesses, organizations, commercial entities, that's the lifeblood, right? That's what they
Yeah.
breathe in and out. And without money, you don't have a business. So it's crucial. But I think when I dig deeper into my own sort of reason and purpose and ambition, it isn't about the money. It is about the deal making. It's about the innovation. It's about I'm giving myself essentially an opportunity to come up with an idea that's maybe never been done before. When that works, it's an amazing feeling.
Hi, Ian. Welcome to the show today. Let's start off just by learning a little bit about you. So, give me some context. What do I need to know to understand you?
What a great question. Firstly, thank you for having me on today's show. Very much appreciate it, and it's an honor. Um, I mean, I think there's a lot. I've been running the business I run now for over 18 years. But if I was to think what really sums me up, it probably started when I was seven years old. And it makes an interesting story because at the time, I'm an army brat. My dad was in the army, and we moved around a little bit. And I lived in Germany for 5 years. And when I was 7 years old, I realized that the shop we had to go to, and there's only one shop we could go to called the Naffy. Um, any other army brats who are listening probably will remember the Naffy, but it was a mile down the road, and I'd figured out that with the money that I had, which was about 2 Deutschmarks, I could buy a few packs of sweets like Polos and Rolos, those kind of things which separated into individual items. I could buy those, walk mile back to where we were staying. I would grab a couple of plates that in my mum's kitchen, bring them down to the park outside, lay out these sweets individually, and sell them individually. And I remember I had a queue of other sort of similar aged kids lining up to buy these individual sweets. Now, I didn't know anything about markup or about profit. Those aren't words that were on my vocabulary at that age. But I love the sensation of this sort of this business, if you like. Again, I didn't know what it was, but somehow at the end of this process, I was going to end up with more than 2 Deutschmarks, probably like 250 or something silly like that. And I hadn't necessarily seen that's what I was doing. That walk to the Naffy and back, enabled me to make some money on top of it. But I do remember that this enterprise that I started with this queue of kids all lining up actually got me into trouble. I remember my mum shouting at me from the balcony above, telling me to get those plates, get those sweets, and come back in, because there was something perhaps shrewd about it that didn't necessarily sit well, or I was taking advantage of other kids by, overcharging them for sweets, or that's how it came across. But then I look back on that and I think there was some enjoyment in that process. And that sort of clearly came out maybe 18 years ago. So when I was in my early 20s, that sort of magnetized me to set up a business. I was planning on being a lawyer. I have a law degree, but it was midway through university, which was when the internet was becoming a little bit more popular and a lot of websites were being created, and there was a dot-com boom. And I said, then maybe this is my time. I'm going to put the law books down and start a business. Originally as a freelancer, building websites, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's really interesting you were saying there about that little bit of a buzz you got from it, and I do wonder with entrepreneurs, do we have that in us that we're chasing that sort of buzz? We enjoy the process of winning a sale, delivering some work, getting paid, and almost obviously we need to earn money, but almost the money becomes secondary because you hear lots of people who actually have got plenty of money but still keep going, and it's that
Yeah,
buzz of always having that.
100%. And I think we focus a lot, or there is a lot of focus on the financials and on making money because, businesses, organizations, commercial entities, that's the lifeblood, right? That's what they
Yeah.
breathe in and out. And without money, you don't have a business. So it's crucial. But I think when I dig deeper into my own sort of reason and purpose and ambition, it isn't about the money. It is about the deal making.
Mm.
It's about the innovation. It's about I'm giving myself essentially an opportunity to come up with an idea that's maybe never been done before. When that works, it's an amazing feeling. My background to a point is in coding. I was able to start a business that was building websites because I was self-taught HTML and classic ASP, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
Um, and there was something in that you had so much enjoyment, or I had so much enjoyment in building something, pressing play and seeing it operate almost autonomously. I mean,
Mm.
if anything, I don't know what defines a business if not that statement alone, right? Building something, pressing play and watching it work autonomously. There's some real pleasure in seeing that work. So yeah, that's definitely what I've been drawn to. I'm thinking back to my 7-year-old self again. Perhaps the next step would be to employ someone to walk to the
Yep.
nappy, to come back and just sit back, almost Dr. Eva style, perhaps. and,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that is the growth of a business, but we do very often talk about the financials, and obviously it's important because cash is to a business is like oxygen to humans.
yes.
If you don't have the money, you will go out of business very quickly. But I think unless you have that, purpose, and I know it's a word that's often overused, and we've mentioned it before, haven't we, in our early conversations, but actually there's got to be some sort of driver beyond just getting the money, because actually if you hate what you do, actually you should probably change it, because life is too short, and again, another cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, 100%. There has to be purpose in everything. Probably more recently, which I'll maybe come on to in a second, about how me and others who I work with have sort of redefined the reason we're doing things, and why the business that we run exists. But if I think back both to my 7-year-old self, perhaps even my early 20s, why was I doing it? Because making money was. Um, I could have just got a job,
Mm.
a well-paid job, perhaps. Back then, I did do some freelancing, and it was in and around digital marketing, which was referred to as new media back then. And it would have been a lot simpler to do so. So there was something driving me that wasn't just about making money. Um, there was an enjoyment, as we sort of said, in deal making, but perhaps in innovating. And again, to coin, to bring about a cliche, the journey of it
Mm.
wasn't so much as I can't wait to be a millionaire. It was about, well, what is the process to become a millionaire actually like?
Yeah.
And I always thought the journey is going to be more valuable to me than anyone just handing me £1 million and going, "Well, you're a millionaire now. Do you feel fulfilled?" Because obviously, I would be like, well, absolutely not. I love the prospect of what that journey was going to look like, and I've loved every minute of it. I mean, it's been tough, of course, but I
Yeah.
don't regret the journey. I don't regret the things I've learned along the way.
No, and I mean, your background's marketing, so let's talk about that and the current business, because I guess even marketing as a you know as a business is helping other people tell stories, tell a process, excite someone. Again, more than just this costs this amount, because that's a boring advert. Like how do you market the product? How do you market a service? So talk me through what you do now, and how you think that connects.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's interesting because I have a and other people in my position have an interesting role. Though it's very common for those who set up a marketing agency to be the person who's marketing their own agency.
Mm.
Um, Actually, that's true for any business, right? Where if you're two, three, four, five people at the earlier years, if you're the one that set it up, you're probably the CMO as well.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going out, you're pitching, or you're doing the selling. Whether it be to consumers or to other businesses. Um, so background, I run a digital marketing agency that purely focuses on search marketing, so SEO and social media, both paid and organic. We have a content proposition and we have a really strong analytics proposition as well. So we do a lot of measurement. We understand what's working, sort of digging deeper into the data and using that data to inform, how we're going to better use social media more effectively, use search engines more effectively, and what kind of content we should be creating that people actually care about and are searching for. My role, though, is also not only selling those services, but also running the agency that does it. So, in a way, marketing a marketing agency, you would think, is the easiest thing, all right?
Yeah.
Um, it's like a car maker making its own car or something. It's like you've got all the tools, you've got all the resources, you've got all the knowledge. You should be making the best car for yourself. Actually, it's not the way at all. In fact, we make the mistake. Mistake is a strong word, but clients are naturally going to come first, right? So
Yeah.
all of our resources should be on client work. But we run our own social media, and I think that's amazing. I think we do a great job. What we didn't do is build our own website. And I think that was the right decision. But yes, I feel like I'm in a somewhat unique situation with my role. Now, in terms of marketing generally, I've just seen it change over the last 20 years dramatically. Um, some of the psychology still exists, and that's what I love talking about and talking to our clients about mostly, because this merge of psychology and technology is not changing as fast as people think. The tech is,
Mm.
but how people use it perhaps is a lot slower. What do I mean by that? Back in the day, I would say, the oldest, I still say this now, the oldest form of marketing's word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed really at all. Um, Word of mouth marketing is based on referrals. It's based on people talking about you in a positive way. It's about being front of mind. It's about all those things. It's just technology is now enabling that in perhaps a different way. Social media in particular. Um, Before we had social media, we relied a lot on, certainly in digital, we relied a lot on Google and search engines. But if certainly if people can remember, search engine marketing, the biggest factor that tended to influence search engines was how many other websites were referring to you. Things have changed
Mm.
slightly now, but it's still looking at and understanding how many other websites are referring and linking to you suggests that if that's a high number and those websites are relevant to you, then that's good. That should boost you up in the rankings, right? And we used to talk a lot about that certainly 10, 15 years ago. But if we think about it, that's the same thing. It's word of mouth
Mm.
marketing just working in a different way. Social media amplified that even further. And it gave us a platform for which we could have a conversation. But still, it's a way we could talk about the products we loved enjoying or the services we currently employed and so on and so forth. We think about, I know this is not the question you asked me, but I'm going off on a tangent now, aren't I?
That's
Um,
fine. Yeah, let's
we,
go for it.
we think about where that's heading, and perhaps this is something we can ponder on. If word of mouth marketing was always the way we've done business, yeah, before the internet, if word of mouth marketing still had a strong role to play when the internet came about with search engine optimization, with social media, how is word of mouth marketing and that as a concept going to play it out in the future of technology?
Mm.
And the obvious one comes to mind is AI, right?
Yep.
So how is AI going to how's word of mouth marketing and referral based marketing going to work in a world of AI? And that's an interesting question. I don't think I have the answer. There's a lot of talk about optimizing content for AI, if that's such a thing,
Yep.
or is AI just going to use the same kind of algorithms, let's say, and when it's promoting you, how many other people are talking about it? I mean, what is the output of AI today? if not just an average of what people are already saying elsewhere. So you could say there will
Mm.
be no change. Um, I
Yeah,
imagine.
where will those new ideas come from? Where were the new systems? And I guess that, you know, if we put humans at the heart of that, then we still need to use AI for much of what we do, but actually the human voice and the connection, because we are social creatures, aren't we? So, and that has moved more probably online than meeting up, or maybe we still meet up, but we can connect with people much easier online and speak. And it's almost never been so easy to drop someone a message or find out what they had for dinner. But and that's from social media. So do you think that personal brand starts to come into that with businesses? So as well as businesses marketing on social media, actually business owners, founders, things like that should be concentrating on their personal brand.
I think with social media in particular, it has leveled the playing field a little bit. So you're getting people who are building their own personal brand and becoming a specialist in something. Um, and that's good. That's absolutely where things should be, rather than perhaps before we had social, let's say, where you had very, very few channels, and those channels you had, hype. Let's refer to them now as sort of hyper celebrities, okay, or just
Mm.
normal celebrities, if you want to say. We have now influencers or content creators, but before we had this celebrity status, and then along came things like reality TV and social media, and it gave other people a platform and a channel for which they could, amplify their own personality, their
Mm.
persona, and so therefore their personal brand. So I think social media has definitely leveled the playing field from that point of view and enabled people to talk more about their impact on the world, whereas before they would have had nothing, no channel for which to
No.
do that, unless you were on TV or on the news.
Yeah.
PR would be your best friend, I think. That's definitely not the case now. I mean, PR definitely has a role to play in connecting those who have a voice with with those who don't, and then and an audience. But yeah, I think personal brand for sure. And my advice is, and has been for a while, that's something everyone who's looking to, yeah, build a product or service around them needs to work on. When we do a lot of LinkedIn work, we tend to refer to that as thought leadership.
Yeah.
So that our clients, certainly because we work mainly in the B2B space, we're looking for advocates that sit within, sorry, I use the word advocate, I meant is brand ambassadors that sit
Yeah.
within our clients' organizations, whose voice tends to be heard more than others, perhaps because of their position with their organization. It's that sort of following and influence that we'd look to leverage. And so, yeah, those are the guys that we'd like to support in building their personal brand.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you said social media sort of leveled the playing field, and there are some major positives from social media, but equally, there are talks of negatives of social media, but probably less so B2B, although maybe we could argue that on LinkedIn. I don't know, but certainly the impact it's been having on whether it's people's mental health and certainly young people
Yeah.
with regard to Instagram and teenagers and things like that. And I know there's some changes coming in around that, but what are the negatives of social media? Which is really funny to ask someone who runs an agency offering social media, but you can't hide away from that.
No, absolutely. I mean, and I'm very, very happy to talk quite a lot about the negative impact of social media, because it absolutely is there. So on a perhaps let's if I just split it down the middle a little bit and talk about B2C, so business to consumer, and
Mm,
B2B, business to business. Historically, and to a point today, we would use platforms like Facebook and Instagram as very much looking to engage with B2C.
yeah,
TikTok, again, B2C, and perhaps even a younger audience. I think that's where you've got to be careful, both with the younger audience and perhaps more about on the sort of B2C side. And there 100% needs to be, there needs to be guidance, there needs to be advice, there perhaps needs to be law changes so that young people are supported, because otherwise, you'll end up that social media ultimately being no good for anyone,
No.
and that's not the situation we want to be in, because it has so many other positives on the other side. Everyone will remember, I'm sure, Instagram kind of in a way leading this leading the way from a point of view of showing unreasonable expectations of others. All right,
Mm.
look how amazing I am, or how beautiful I look, or the holidays I'm going on, or the car I'm driving. All those things just made people depressed
Yeah.
because it gave this unrealistic expectation that that's what I need to have to be happy. Um, and I think, to somewhat quickly, but perhaps not quick enough, we jumped on that. We said that's not acceptable.
Mm.
Before that, we had predominantly women and female focused magazines saying this is what a woman needs to look like. And that was called out, and rightly so. LinkedIn, and now it's kind of more on the B2B side and perhaps on the personal brand side, so what we were just talking about, is slowly, in my view, and dangerously close to becoming what Instagram used to be. And that is this platform that we say, look how amazing my life is running a business. Look how successful I am running this business. Look at how many new clients I've onboarded, new staff I've hired. I've gone exponential growth. My revenue is through the roof. I'm turning over this many millions, and I've only been running a business for 5 minutes, while the rest of the economy seems to be plummeting, down off a cliff. So I think there's a real danger that is going to happen. Now, if there was ever a platform I thought you could talk authentically about being successful, it was LinkedIn.
Mm.
Facebook felt a little awkward, not quite right the place you want to brag, because that's how it would come across.
Mm.
But LinkedIn, historically felt like a place you could say, I've had these successes, and you would genuinely be celebrated and congratulated. And I felt certainly I could celebrate and congratulate others who were having successes because they were people that I knew. And so I knew the struggle they had gone on to get there. But also, business generally is hard. It is
Yeah.
very hard. You know, we've heard probably more recently about what the government thinks is a working person,
Yeah.
and anyone running a small business apparently is not. But of course, I don't believe that, because this country is made up of thousands. I feel I may be exaggerating by saying millions, but tens of thousands of businesses, of small businesses, and it is really tough.
Mm.
So, with that, in context of that, saying that you've achieved this and done that is fine, and it should be celebrated. But the question now is, have we gone too far? And is LinkedIn becoming what Instagram used to be? Because sooner or later, that's going to be called out, and it will become an inauthentic platform, and that would be a shame.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I mean, there's certainly, I am seeing a slight change on people being authentic, but then you thinking about it from when I was just listening to what you were saying. Again, is the authenticity almost people are doing it because that's what they feel the platform should be about, and therefore actually you're not being authentic, because actually if you're crafting a message to try and sound authentic, arguably you're not being authentic.
Yeah. You've got a couple of other things. You've got two things I think that are factors in that. One is AI, which I'll mention in a second, and the other is, you're 100% right. It's very easy to kind of put onto the platform what you think people want to hear,
Mm.
or is aligned with how you want people to perceive you.
Yeah.
Um, and by virtue of that, you're instantly being inauthentic. Um, the context, however, is complicated, because you're one is likely to get backlash whatever happens or whatever they say.
Mm.
I mean, that would make a strong argument to just be authentic, just be yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to get haters regardless. um a good example that comes to mind, I don't know when this was now, was either last year or the year before. You may remember the crying CEO on LinkedIn, um,
Yes.
and putting out a post of the guy in tears. I won't name him, having to let go two employees. and the backlash was, you know, people are doing that every day and
Mm.
getting upset about it. You know, what was the purpose behind maybe putting this post on? Was it really just to say? Was it really about you? You know, was that authentic? Now, the question is, well, who cares really? What
Yeah.
I didn't dig deep into going why did this guy put the post out? But maybe that was just for him. Maybe he did feel bad. Maybe he had to put something out to be public about it, and there was always going to be a backlash anyway.
Mm.
So it's a really tough question, and it's a complicated world that we live in. That means what is authentic, because then when you are authentic, there are other questions that you probably need to ask yourself, which is who cares? Is this thing you want to say,
Yeah.
is it the right platform, even if you are being authentic about it? When so there's a published or co-authored a book published last year called Socialize. The thesis is very much on storytelling, which again is something that I don't think is going to go away. People,
No.
they love hearing stories. They engage with something that sounds like a story. We love sharing stories as much as we love listening to stories. And if there is something that social media loves, it's people sharing things and other people listening to what the things that are being shared. And storytelling is going to unlock a lot of that. So I think that there is some really interesting parts around storytelling, but the crux of it comes down to, and this is what I mentioned in the book, being original, shareable, and valuable. When you're posting
Yep.
something on social media, being original, shareable, valuable. Now, authenticity has got to come in there somewhere. But if you're forgetting if this is original, that is something someone else has said. It's old news, regardless if you think it's new.
Mm.
Is it valuable? Is someone going to listen, read, or watch what you shared and go, right, I got value from this? Either short term, maybe it's just funny, or long term, this is game changing. I need to implement this new thing. Another thing is it's shareable, and that's the platform that we use. Are you encouraging people to share and amplify this particular message?
Mm.
Because it meets those three things, and it's certainly from a checklist point of view a successful social media post. Um, the other thing is AI, and you know, the question originally was about sort of being authentic and putting out what you believe is true to you. AI it's slowly degrading that. I've watched with some quite disappointing with disappointing eyes the vanilla like social media posts that are coming in to my feed more and more, and that is absolutely degrading authenticity, even if it might meet the original shareable valuable sort of principles. And now I'm thinking out loud, where is that going to go? If we're using AI to create more of this social media posts because it's easier, what will that actually mean to the quality of the content that we're sharing? And more importantly, how will that affect us as human beings in terms of you know how we come across and how we are perceived through those channels? Is it going to be the case that we put something out on social, people are using AI all the time, but when we meet in real life, there's nothing like them at all?
Mm. Yeah, and that's a very, very good point because there's certainly, within social media, a lot of people creating a brand or promoting a business will want to, hit those marks that the algorithm likes. And you can train AI, to study some posts that have done really well. And I want to write something in this sort of tone, but it's not you. It's not your voice, and you are just repeating something. It's not original. You're basically just copying some other posts. But if you can't back that up when someone meets you and someone has a conversation with you, then actually, you've done a disservice. And that's, one of the things when, I talk about marketing is that consistency across touch points. And that the delivery of service has to be as good as the beautiful marketing that was used to sell it, because otherwise you get someone disappointed. And the same will be if you're promoting yourself or promoting your brand using just AI, and then actually when there is that human interaction, which I think we still need within most businesses, if it lets it down, actually you're probably more disappointed than if the marketing wasn't quite as nice and it was a bit more authentic.
100%. The a couple of things sort of sprung to mind for me. Um, I recently wrote a post on LinkedIn. It started, "Is AI turning our brains to mush?" And
Mm.
where I was going with that really is there is an important part of a journey that AI is essentially shortcutting, and that's a dangerous place to be. The example I gave was I do a lot of pitch writing. So when we're pitching for new work or pitching for a campaign, I'll put together a pitch deck, and within there there's things like a competitor analysis. It's understanding the audience and what they care about, and how we're going to align their needs with how our prospect, our potential client is going to sort of work to deliver on that.
Mm.
Um, it includes our understanding about the prospect and obviously how we work as an agency and our model. If I could use AI to essentially upload a brief from a prospect, upload a few of our previous pitch decks, and go, can you just combine the two, create a new proposal meeting this brief, let me know, and I can just PDF it up and forward it on.
Mm.
Now, job is done. The job being sending a proposal that meets the brief. But what if I'm called into a pitch meeting and asked to go through that, or just face
Yeah.
to face, question, challenged perhaps about, well, what do you think about this particular nuance over here, or how we could apply that to this particular challenge? If I don't know that, but if I haven't gone on a journey to create that pitch deck, then I'm essentially a liar. I've not
Yeah.
achieved anything. Now, there is a strong argument to say, actually, you've achieved everything. Your job is to submit a proposal that meets that brief, and assuming that AI has done its job, that has
It's
been
been
done.
done. Yeah.
So it's interesting discussion to have around the value AI can be, but is it turning our brains to mush? Am I not? If I was to use it in that way, AI in that way, am I not really engaging with the problem and therefore thinking about how we can solve it, and certainly not creating anything new or innovating in any way? And I think that's quite dangerous and also boring.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that around, if we don't use our brains for certain tasks, do we sort of, unlearn being able to do that task? And, I mean, generationally, I mean, don't know about you, but I probably can't read a map very well anymore, because just, I sometimes don't even plan my route. I literally get in the car, put in the postcode and go. And I
Right.
trust that.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember going on holiday across the UK with my parents when we were younger, and they'd be there with the map, and mum was trying to read it to dad, and it'd be upside down. It would be a nightmare. But there was that skill of planning a journey and things like that, and obviously we're started to lose that. And okay, that maybe isn't a problem, but if there is the understanding how to do an actual competitor analysis, how to write a brief, how to actually start to understand some of the nuances, the human psychology behind why people are using some businesses and not others, and things like that, and you just outsource all of that. I don't know. Again, someone would argue, but that's brilliant. Then you haven't had to use your brain power for it. But equally, there will become a time when actually you do need to, and you're going to find it particularly hard.
Yes, I mean, this is the perhaps as you use the word danger, some would see it as quite the opposite of when we're outsourcing thinking. Now, outsourcing anything as a business, that's fine. But
Mm,
personally, when human beings start to outsource their thinking, I think we're going to end up in trouble.
mm,
There is an interesting challenge, I think, happening with business owners. So just kind of bringing it back to that, probably what I said previously, which is something about some enjoyment about setting something up, building the processes around it, and then enabling it just to press play, and then seeing that
mm.
work almost autonomously. AI is allowing us to take that next step, right? Where I can process the thinking, part of it. And so there's this challenge of, well, why wouldn't we be doing that? As a business owner, I feel I'm hardwired to look for
Yeah.
efficiencies and quicker ways to get the same result, assuming it's the same outcome quality wise, but for less money or less financial investment. So there is this challenge of, getting from A to B as quickly as possible, and perhaps setting up a process that's autonomous, that's really really attractive to business owners. And AI is providing that. And I think we've got to be careful though, to what cost, to our own our own brain power, perhaps, that's going to become. um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I mean, we spoke briefly earlier that actually most of us are in business because of some sort of purpose, and actually that end goal that AI can, y- you know, maybe take out some of the journey, so we just get the end result. But we already spoke earlier that actually the end result of getting paid and that isn't always the thing that actually excites us. It's that journey bit in the middle, and if we're going to completely outsource all of that,
yeah,
then actually we're probably not getting the reward that we we think we need or we do need.
100%. And on that sort of journey point, the what I hear a lot of business owners have been saying around, say, hybrid working, a little bit off topic perhaps, is the kind of the missing of the human interaction,
Mm,
and seeing people in the flesh, being present, talking to them literally face to face. That is part of the enjoyment of running a business. And that it's quite typical, not necessarily for everyone. I mean, I would say I'm a natural introvert, but it's quite typical for people who run businesses to love the presence of being around other people,
mm,
and setting up and running teams and seeing those teams work and interact with each other in a really positive way. There's a lot of enjoyment that comes from people who run businesses to see teams that they've built work really well together. And of course, hybrid working, and obviously in extreme cases, remote working, you don't really see that in the way that you used to. And that perhaps has been lost as well. But yeah, I can't remember why I decided to talk about that.
no, it's fine. I mean, it is. I mean, I guess things are changing and they're changing rapidly. But let's rewind a little bit. I mean, over that 18 years of growing the business, what has your journey been like? What have been some of the ups, but equally some of the downs of that?
Um, yeah, and there's been plenty. 18 years. I feel like I've probably pressed reset about 4 times. Either the business is needed to pivot, we're reacting to economic changes, changes with technology. All these things have impacted us. I've my very first business partner in 2006. Only lasted 2.5 years. I think it's safe for me to say he preferred the freelance environment and complete autonomy. Um, so I've gone through the process of bringing him and his clients on, and then sort of buying him out.
Yeah.
Similarly, perhaps more recently, 2019. But you learn from all these, and again, this has all been part of the journey. Um, the the most interesting part, though, I think, is just watching how I think the economy, I'd say economy and technology has been the most interesting parts. Um, I 2008 was tough, and it was really
Mm,
at that point or just before that I thought this was great. We've got momentum. It's successful from a team point of view. And then, we'd taken on some funding, and it just felt like this is exactly what, running a business was always going to be about. We had our office, it was in London. We had sign on the wall, base creative up in lights. It's like, this is it. This is the dream. And only after
yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 years, um, perhaps what I didn't know is that we were hemorrhaging money. We'd taken on too many staff. We were under quoting, under pitching for work, so we weren't charging enough, essentially.
Mm,
And that was all about to kind of bite us. And then it was also at that point that my business partner at the time says, this is probably not for me. So very quickly, it just felt like everything had turned. Of course, subsequently, you realize that things are better in a different way. Maybe my business partner who left wasn't the right fit for where I was going
Mm.
and where the business was going. And there's always something new around the corner. There's always a learning, I suppose. It sounds really cliche. There's always something to learn from
Yeah.
everything, but there genuinely is. And just when you think you know it all, you don't, and there'll be always be
No.
something new.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I learned quite late on that, and I need to be careful about this because not everyone's going to agree with me. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I think I didn't put enough emphasis on that at all when I was starting out in business, thinking that it's not who you know at all. It's what you know and doing a great job.
Mm.
That's all it takes. But I rely on more and more. I see the most valuable thing that I have out of all of this is my network.
Yeah.
It's the support of people who I trust. It's the credibility that I have in other people that leads to more work. It also
Yep.
leads to me being able to talk to someone about problems and challenges that I have. Um, and perhaps it's better to say it's about us being able to connect with human beings that is the value of all of this.
Mm.
And that as much tech as we have, I think there'll always be a craving deep inside our croc brain, as I've heard it being referred to, that
Yeah.
will just crave that human connection.
Yeah. Yeah. That regardless of the technology that's come about, actually, at its basics, we are social animals, and perhaps social media has just highlighted how social we want to be, even if
Yes.
it's maybe not necessarily, always brought out the best of that. But we enjoy connecting, and that's why social media platforms, and there's multiple social media platforms, how that's been able to blow up as such, because we are social people, and getting back to maybe that face to face. So, but what do you do outside of work then switch off and actually have that, I suppose, social interaction as well?
Yeah, good question. What do I do? I have various probably typical pastimes, but perhaps more, or I should say, less known, more unexpected. I'm a fitness instructor, so I
Okay.
teach is an interesting word. Teach group exercise. So twice a week currently, I stand in front of somewhere between sort of 20 to 30 people, telling them to squat lower.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, 10 years ago, that was an amazing release. So I found the gym, and probably my third time in trying to join it and trying to fit in with it, because it's an intimidating place.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who clearly have been there for a lot longer than 5 minutes. And I found a particular class and I loved it so much. I remember clearing my evenings and mornings just to go there and do it. And so much so that an instructor said to me, if you're coming so often, why don't you teach it? And of course I said, no, I've got a full-time job. I don't have time for that. And she said, well, if you're coming 8 times a week, I think I was doing it. If you're coming 8 times a week, you probably do have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, let's do it. Let's give it a go. I'm 10 years on. I'm still doing it. The enjoyment for me is it is so different to my day
Mm.
to day, but actually the people I'm in front of are just like me. They have a full-time job. It's often at a desk in a sedentary position.
Mm.
They have the challenges of, perhaps whether it's their team or a client or, their job or promotion or salary or whatever it might be. And I feel in that environment though, we're together and we can forget about the outside. I can just press play and, we sweat a bit for 45 minutes. And I love that. The other thing I think the side of me, which is as a sort of teenager, late teen, certainly at university, this natural introversion was very, very strong. I hated giving presentations. I certainly wouldn't have done anything like this. The prospect of standing in front of 10 people and saying my name or my favorite movie
Yeah.
was, just gave me sweaty palms. But I did know when I started a business, that's the one thing I need to change. If I'm going to be successful, it's the ability to present to others. I have, and still remember, I joined a Toastmasters group, by the way, which I
Yep.
highly advocate. And that was in 2008. And so delivering this group exercise class is very similar to that. There is, being in the limelight, being in the spotlight, and motivating people to perhaps do things they don't want to do, or they struggle to do, or are hard to do. And there's, great enjoyment in that. So that's my kind of extracurricular activity. I think that it ironically draws some parallels with my business life. And side note, it's also a great networking opportunity.
Yeah.
The people that are in the gyms, especially the ones that are paying like £300 a month or whatever, work in organizations that could become our clients, and they absolutely have. I mean, a great success story is someone I met in a gym. He was a participant. Turns out, he runs a huge corporate communications agency, which we now do, and have done for 8 years, a lot of work through.
Yeah.
And that was someone I was been telling to squat lower.
It is that power of those, that network. Quite often, work isn't always just delivering a proposal and trying to win it. Actually, just building that relationship, because we tend to like to work with people who we like and who
Yes,
we trust and who
100%.
we, because actually, we're talking marketing. There's agencies sort of all over the place. And I'm sure at that, technical level, there's some really good people in there, so that will be fine. But you also just want to work with someone who you can connect with, and
Yes.
and often that's found out in a different environment, like you say, in a gym or in a social setting or something like that, where actually you go, yeah, no, I want to work with them.
Yes, 100%. I think that's really important. I don't think that's ever going to change with us as human beings. We're going to want that interpersonal connection, human connection, and we want people to. We ultimately want others to succeed.
Yeah,
And so, how what goes through our minds, I'm sure, is how can we help others to do that, and for them to be successful, because we want others to help us, and for others to want us to be successful as well. We don't want robots being successful. That's not going to give us the same enjoyment. We want
no,
people and humans to be successful. 100%. I've recently started a roundtable event. My other passion, by the way, is wine. If I wasn't running a digital marketing agency, I'd probably be doing something with wine.
yeah,
One day I'll have a vineyard or make wine or something like that. Perhaps that's a bit cliche now I think about it. But I'm running an event, a roundtable called Sellers and Marketing, and it's with marketing professionals. But it's really what ties us all together is a passion at any level, a
yeah,
passion for wine. Um, I'm doing that because I want to, build a community, of course, and to talk about the challenges we have in marketing, and to learn about what challenges others have, but also to connect not just about that, perhaps through a shared passion of something else,
yeah,
and that's why. But ultimately, I'm looking forward to just meeting people and smiling and having a laugh and building that human connection with them.
yeah.
If work comes from it, then great.
It's been brilliant chatting to you today, and it's amazing how we've spoken a lot about sort of social and technology, but we've always just gone back to that human connection. It's a sort of couple of words we've repeated over and over, and I think that's probably a key takeaway from today. That regardless of both our backgrounds in a digital landscape, actually the human connection is what underpins all of that.
Yes,
Um,
yes, and it may
yeah,
be some ironic that someone who runs a digital agency is advocating such a
I
thing, but
know.
100%, I agree.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. I've
Thank you.
absolutely loved our conversation, and wish you all the best, obviously, with your agency, with your fitness, and of course, with the future vineyard that you're going to acquire. So,
I'll let you know.
yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.